Welcome to online study on Indian Evidence Act. Let us discuss the provisions of section 114 of the Evidence Act. What it says, court may presume existence of certain facts. You are aware that section 4 of the Indian Evidence Act defines what is may presume, shall presume and conclusive proof. Section 4 provides then whenever it has been provided that the court may presume a particular fact, then fact, what is fact? You should understand the fact as defined in the Evidence Act. Anything, state of thing, relation of thing, capable of being perceived by senses, or anything, or of which any person is, there is a mental conscious. So that is fact. So court may presume, whenever it has been provided that the court may presume a fact, that court may regard such fact as proof or may call for proof of it. That is, it is a very that weak type of presumption. Court has a discretion. Discretion is left to the court. Either court may regard such fact to be proof or may call for proof of it. So that's what section 114 says. Court may presume existence of certain facts. Court may presume that certain facts exist. When? When? In what circumstances? In which cases? The court may presume that a particular fact exists. So this section 114 says, the court may presume the existence of any fact which it thinks, court thinks, likely to have happened. Court may presume that the existence of a fact which the court thinks. What it thinks? That which it likely to have happened. Likely to happen. The regard being to the common course of natural events, common course of natural events, natural in the common course, natural event it happens, or human conduct and public and private business. What? In their relation to the facts of the particular case. So, court may presume that a particular fact exists when court thinks that it might have happened, might have occurred, regarding in the common course of natural event or in the common course of human conduct, public and while discharging public and private business, but with referring to the fact which is to be considered, which is to be in relation to the facts of the particular case. So this section 114 gives a long list. Illustrations are there. There is a long list of illustrations which will throw some, that is, knowledge, how the court will think that a particular fact might have happened or would have happened. Court thinks that what? Which likely to have happened, not might, likely to have happened. That a particular fact, this, likely to have happened. Any fact which it thinks fit, likely to have happened. How? In the common course of natural event or human conduct, private or public business. The first illustration is, the court may presume this A, that a man who is in possession of stolen goods soon after the theft, if a man is found, it is proved that a man was found in possession of stolen goods. When? Soon after theft. Or had received the goods knowing them. So in such case, the court may presume that either he is a thief or he is a receiver of the stolen property, stolen goods. So what is the illustration says? That a man who is in possession of stolen goods soon after the theft is either the thief or has received the goods knowing that it is stolen unless he can account for his possession. This is a may presume. When it was found that a person, a man was in possession of stolen goods, then in such case, unless that person satisfactorily accounts for his possession, then if it is not there, if such account of possession is not given, then the court may presume that man is either a thief or a receiver of stolen property. Because that is human conduct. Court is likely to believe, likely to what? Come to an opinion, likely to have, likely to come that it had happened. Unless how the stolen goods came to his possession. Either he had committed theft of it or he had received that goods knowing the same to be stolen property. If he accounts for the possession, then this presumption is reported. Presumption will not be there. Now, under 14b, that an accomplice is unworthy of credit unless he is corroborated in material particulars. This is also another may presume. 114b, who is an accomplice, who was directly or indirectly and taken part in committing the crime. He is an accomplice. So, either an abettor or a conspirator or any of are in the gang of the persons who committed a crime, who are taken part in the crime. Somehow, directly or indirectly have taken part, participated in a crime. It's called accomplice. So, court may presume that an accomplice is unworthy of credit because of his implication in the commission of the offense. There is possibility of his telling lie. So the court may presume that an accomplice is unworthy of credit unless he is corroborated with material particulars. In this context, you should refer the provisions of section 133 of the Evidence Act. What section 133 Evidence Act says? A conviction is not illegal merely on the uncorroborated testimony of an accomplice. You go through section 133, what it says? What is that section 137? Accomplice shall be a competent witness. What it says? Section 133, accomplice shall be a competent witness against an accused person. So as because a person is accomplice, it cannot be, there is no restriction to take his evidence against other accused persons. Accomplice is a competent witness against other accusation, and a conviction is not illegal merely because it proceeds upon the uncorroborated testimony of an accomplice. When a conviction is recorded by the court without corroboration of the accomplice evidence, that will not be illegal. But, so you should know who is an accomplice. So section 114b, what she said, there is a may presumption. The court may presume that an accomplice is unworthy of credit unless corroborated to the material particulars. But simultaneously there is provision in section 133 of the Evidence Act. Accomplice is a competent witness against the other accused, and a conviction recorded without corroboration of the accomplice evidence is not illegal. But as a matter of prudence, case law has settled the law that there should not be conviction basing upon uncorroborated testimony of an accomplice. Some amount of this corroboration is required to the evidence of an accomplice to record a conviction. So this is law has been settled. We will discuss the provisions because some doubt is there when an accomplice gives evidence against the accused, because there is possibility of his telling lie either to save him or to implicate others. So that's why 114b says, an accomplice is unworthy of credit. Court may presume that an accomplice is unworthy of credit unless corroborated by material particulars. So now 114c says that a bill of exchange accepted or endorsed was accepted or endorsed for good consideration. What is bill of exchange? Bill of exchange that has been defined in the Negotiable Instrument Act. What it defines? Bill of exchange is an unconditional order in writing directing somebody to pay certain money to certain person on his behalf. So when the bill of exchange has been executed, the court may presume what that the bill of exchange, even when accepted means when bill of exchange is there, it is there is three parties: drawer, drawee, and payee. Drawer, the person who draw the bill of exchange, drawer. Drawee, on whom the bill of exchange is drawn, is called drawee. The person who is entitled to payment is called payee. So here, if once a bill of exchange is presented before the drawee and he accepts the bill of exchange has been accepted, or there is an endorsement in the bill of exchange, then the court may presume that such acceptance or endorse was for good consideration. That was good consideration. Now, illustration C is over, that is illustration D, that a thing or state of thing which has been shown to be in existence within a period shorter than that within which such thing or state of thing usually ceases to exist is still in existence. Something exists within a certain period. If there is a particular thing or a state of thing, if it is shown that such thing existed in a shorter period than the period during which normally it is available, then the court may presume that this is still in existence. In this connection, we will find a lot of examples. You go through the examples. D. It is proved that a river ran in a certain course 5 years back. It was proved that a river ran in a particular locality in a certain course 5 years back. But it is known that there have been floods since that time, which might change its course. So that may be, so the court may presume that the river was there, but there may be evidence that it may change the course of the incident, course of the river. What if? So that a thing or state of thing which has been shown to be in existence within a period shorter than that within which such things or state of usually create, which cease to exist, is still in existence. So the court may presume that a particular river will not vanish within a year or 1 year. So if within 5 years, if it is proved that a river ran in a certain course, in a particular course 5 years ago, the court may presume that it was there. But it is known that there have been floods since that time which might have changed, because when there was a flood, the court may presume that the river might have been changed, the course of the river might have been changed. So now, this E, that judicial and official acts have been regularly performed. Court may presume when judicial somebody, a judgment has been pronounced, a order sheet is there, a order is there, official acts are regularly performed. So court may presume that judicial act and official acts are regularly performed. F, that the common course of business has been followed in particular cases. So let us see this E, illustration E. What? As illustration, a judicial act, the regularly of which is in question, was performed under a exceptional circumstance. That may be exceptions. So what is? F says, the question is whether a letter was received. It is shown to have been posted, but the usual course of the post was interrupted by disturbances. What is there? But in the case, shall have also regard these illustrations that is are to be read along with the may presume. These illustrations say, but the court shall have also regard to such facts as the following in considering whether such maxims do or do not apply to the particular case before it. So it is may presume, here the may presume there, and illustrate that this other illustration, that is some provision, the court will also take into consideration these events, that is such facts are the following in considering whether such maxim do or do not apply. So here, as I told you this, that a thing, as per illustration D, what illustration D says? Court may presume that if a particular thing was in existence in a shorter period than the period during which such period that particular thing must have there, then the court may presume. But while considering this, while drawing this may presumption, the court will also regard the other circumstances, other the following, considering whether this maxim do not have, because the illustration that is D will say, suppose the court may presume that a particular river had followed was running within a particular course. But after that, if it is shown that there was flood, the court may also consider this, that this may presumption, while applying this may presumption rule, the court may also consider that in the meantime there might have been any change of course of the river because there was flood. Similarly here, in judicial and official acts have been regularly performed, the court may presume that judicial and official acts are regularly performed. But the circumstances, if there is a particular if a particular fact is proved that in a particular case, that there is an exceptional circumstance, it has not been found, the court will also take it into consideration. So blindly, this may presumption will not be applicable. Along with, while applying this presumption, the court will also shall have regard to such facts as mentioned in that section. Such facts, considering whether such maxim do or do not apply, considering this may presumption whether it apply or not. So if that is, as per illustration, this E, a judicial act, the regular of which is the question, was performed under exceptional circumstances. That is to be also seen. Then AF says that the common course of business has been followed in particular case, when a letter has been delivered or not. So court may presume that once a letter has been posted in the post office, that the letter might have reached that. But while applying this presumption, if some materials are there before the court, what the court, that a particular but the usual course of the post was interrupted by disturbances. There was a disturbance in a particular locality. So this fact is also to be taken into consideration. In such case, the court will not apply the may presumption blindly. Consider that fact, and along with this, the common course of, that is a common course of business, that is to be applied. Similarly, in case of G, that evidence which could be and is not produced would, if produced, be unfavorable to the person who withholds it. There is a may presumption when a person is asked to produce a document, and if it doesn't give any evidence which is available with him, then the presumption, court may draw a presumption that may presume that if that evidence will be given, that will be unfavorable to the party. But simultaneously, the circumstance as mentioned in G, in the provision, that is also to be taken, that a man refuses to produce a document which would be on a contract of small importance on which he is sued. If he doesn't produce a document which bears a small importance in the case, but which might also injure the feeling and reputation of his family, that is also taken into consideration. In such a case, the court may not presume. Why? Because the court may not presume, because if that production of that document will cause injury to that person or injury to the family of that person, and he is not producing, then in such case this may presumption will not be applicable. That as he did not produce that document, that if that document would have been produced, that would have gone against him. So now this H says that if a man refuses to answer a question which is not compelled to answer by law, the answer he be given would be unfavorable to him. That is, if a person refuses to answer which is not compelled to answer by law. So in such, if a person, when in evidence in the witness box, he refused to give an answer. So that is, he refuses, that the court may presume that it would be unfavorable. But simultaneously, the other facts, other circum, that a man refuses to answer a question which is not compelled by law to answer, but the answer to it might cause loss to him in matters unconnected with the matters in relation to which it is asked. That may be taken into consideration. In such case, this may presumption will not be applicable. So, if that when a document creating a obligation is in the hands of the obliger, the obligation has been discharged. Suppose there is a mortgage and the document in the mortgage deed is in the hands of the mortgagor, then the court may presume that the obligation has been discharged. But this simultaneously, the other circumstances, other facts, as provided in the section, that is also to be taken into consideration to apply this main presumption doctrine or not. What a bond is in possession of the obliger, but the circumstances of the case are such that he may have stolen it. So in such case, this provision will. Now let us understand what is a human experience basis of presumption. This is only human experience. Every day, a human being experiences many things. Judge is also a human being. Judge must, if he thinks, considering the common course of natural event and human conduct, private and public business, the judge thinks that a particular fact must have happened. Then the judge may presume that the existence of certain facts. But while thinking, while taking may presumption, the court, the judge must consider, take into account the other circumstances, that is other facts which will negative that presumption, which will contradict that presumption. That is, with a list is there. So as to A, suppose first example is that if a person was found in possession of stolen property, then the court may presume either he is a thief or a receiver of stolen property unless he is accounted for. But the proviso says, while making that presumption, while drawing this presumption, the court is also bound, court should also take the other factors, if any, to be account, such as, in case of A, that a shopkeeper has in his till a marked rupee soon after it was stolen and cannot account for its possession specifically, but is continually receiving rupees in the course of business. That in the course of business, a particular money, particular marked rupee he had received, that will also be taken into consideration. As because a particular rupee which had been stolen, which contained a mark, that was found in the possession of a shopkeeper. This mere presumption cannot be drawn, that is either a thief or a receiver stolen property. Similarly, B presumption is that, what is B presumption? That an accomplice is unworthy of credit, unless corroborated material particulars. The B presumption is to be read along with the illustration B. What is that? A person of the highest character is tried for causing a man's death by an act of negligence in arranging certain machinery. Be a person of equally good character who also took part in the arrangement, describes precisely what was done and admits and explains the common carelessness of A and himself. So in such case, the may presumption that accomplice is unworthy credit may not be applicable, may not be applied by the court, because he is considering his highest position and he is also implicating him in the crime, in the particular offense. So in such case, this may presumption will not be applicable. So that is, as regard the B also, suppose what is accomplice? A crime is committed by several persons A, B and C. Three of the criminals are captured on the spot and kept apart from each other. A crime was committed, allegedly committed by A, B, C, and those three persons were captured and kept separately. Each gives an account of the crime implicating D, and the accounts corroborated each other in such a manner as to render previous concern highly improbable. This is section 114A. 114A. Sometimes you skip up the illustrations and you do not read this may presumption along with the exceptions, or even not exceptions, along with the other provisions that the court shall, while drawing the may presumption, must take into account the following particulars. As mentioned that to in the section 114 with reference to each of the illustration as enumerated from A to I. So I think I'm clear now that what is that is may presume. That may presume is not a mechanical. That is also the, while drawing this may presume other factors as provided in section 114. Those factors, those circumstances are to be taken into consideration by the court to what to form the this the may presumption is there. So this is may presumption. Now let us go to the provisions of section 114A. It is a presumption in case of what? That is sexual offences. Some offences, that is in case of rape, in case of there is allegation of rape, that is mostly on rape in by a public while in custodial rape, and also in such cases when there is a it is proved that there was physical relationship between the that is intercourse is proved and the accused pleads that there was a consent. There was a consent. Then in such case if the victim says no, there is no consent, then in such case the court shall presume that there was absent of consent. This provision section 114 A says, let us, this is included by way of amendment. What it says? Presumption as to absence of consent in certain prosecution for rape. In certain kinds of prosecution for rape, court shall presume that there was no consent. What it says? In a prosecution for rape under clause A or clause B or clause C or clause D or clause E or clause G of subsection 2 of section 376. These are all custodial rape. In a custodial rape, where sexual intercourse of the accused is proved, in case the sexual intercourse with the accused is proved, and the question is whether it was without the consent. Only sexual intercourse is proved, but the question before course whether there was a consent, without consent. So whether there was a consent or not. If the woman alleged to have been raped and she states in her evidence, if the woman consent, whether the consent of that woman was there or not, and that woman states in evidence before the court that she did not consent. If the woman says before the deposes before the court, what is that? She had no consent, then the court shall presume that she did not consent. Here, there is a court shall presume, whenever it has been directed that the court shall presume a particular fact to be true in existence. The court shall regard such fact as proved unless until it is disproved. So once the woman says the intercourse is proved, and there is a question before the court whether there was consent of the woman or not. In such case, if the woman says that she had no consent, then the court shall presume that there is no consent. She had no consent. She did not consent. So immediately the onus is on the accused to prove that you will disprove it. Court shall, whenever it has been directed that the court shall presume a particular fact, the court shall regard such fact as proved until it is disproved. So long that has not been disproved, the court shall hold that sort of fact exists. So what is that? It is a new provision that where the question before the court is whether it was included in Evidence Act, that is by of amendment in the year 1983. In the year 1983, this was included. What it says? That is a new provision. The effect of new provision is that where the question before the question is only consent. Intercourse is true. And the question is before the court is whether there was consent or not. If in this type of prosecution under section 376, only mostly custodial rapes, you go through the Indian Penal Code, all the provisions to find out what are the exact offences. In such case, if the woman says, and that is accused takes the plea that is there was a consent, and the woman in her evidence states that she had no consent, then the court shall presume that there was no consent. Shall presume means court shall regard such fact that there was no consent until it is proved. So, in this case, the requirements of the presumption are, what is that presumption? It is a proven fact that there has been intercourse, as the intercourse is proved. Second, the question is whether there was consent or not. Third, the victim deposes that she had no consent. In such case, then section 114A is applicable. So here, this is section 114A, which emerged from the judgment of Supreme Court are, there being no, there are various decisions, because what the victim statement is given more importance in such custodial rape cases. This is important provision. Now, the other provision, let us discuss a very important provision in the Evidence Act, that is estoppel. What is estoppel? If I put a question sometimes, many students, they say, stop your mouth. What is stop your mouth? When somebody says estoppel, they say immediately say stop your mouth. What is, yes, stop your mouth, but that is not the exact answer. Estoppel. Estoppel means a person is not permitted to deny the truth of his representation, which he had made, and if on his representation some other person has acted upon. It is a rule of evidence. Estoppel is a rule of evidence. What it says? It is not an evidence, but it is a rule of evidence. What he says? When a person has, by his declaration, act, or omission, three ways. Either by declaring something, or by his conduct actual doing something, or by omitting to do something. When a person, by his act, declaration, or omission, intentionally caused or permitted another person to believe a thing to be true, then other thing you should remember, intention is there. Intentionally caused. Intention is very important. Intentionally caused. Intentionally permitted. Intentionally caused or permitted another person to believe a thing to be true and to act upon such belief. This ingredient, you go through it. A person, by his act, intentionally doing something, declaring something, or omission. Intentionally caused. Intentionally is very important. Intentionally caused or permitted another person to believe something. Believe something. What? What do we believe? To be true. And on that belief to act upon. And on that belief he has acted upon. All these ingredients. Person, there is person's act is there. Omission is there or declaration there. By that act, declaration, omission, he intentionally caused or permitted to cause a particular, another person to believe a thing to be true and on that belief to act upon. Then in such case, he nor his representative, neither he nor his representative shall be allowed in any suit or proceeding between himself and such person, between that person and who had acted upon. He or his representative shall not be allowed in a suit or proceeding between such person, between him and such person, or his representative, to deny the truth of that thing, to deny the truth of that thing. So estoppel means a person is not permitted to deny the truth of a thing which is represented to another to believe to be true, and on that belief that person has acted upon. In those circumstances, then only the principle of estoppel will be applicable. Estoppel, that means what it says? Estoppel, sometimes we say stop to, yes, stop mouth is may not be, it is sometimes you understand, but denying the truth of a person who says cannot blow hot and cold at the same time. So what is once a person establish a principle of law by which a person is held bound by the representation made by him arising out of his conduct. It is a principle of law whereby a person is bound. Bound by what? Bound by the representation made by him or arising out of his conduct. For example, if a person made a statement intending that some other person should act upon, he will be stopped that it will be prevented from denying the truth of the statement. This principle is applicable in many cases. Suppose, for an example, a person consigned sent a particular goods through railway. In the declaration, while sending a particular goods in the railway, he declared the value of that goods at 5,000 rupees. And on that representation, the railway believed it and accordingly charged the consigned expense or the parcel charge. Thereafter, that goods was lost. And the person filed a suit claiming 10,000 rupees, saying that the goods lost, the value of the goods lost was 10,000. Here, he just stopped. He cannot deny the truth of the value which he has declared. Because by his own declaration, he declared that the value of that goods which was consigned through railway or which was sent through railway, that was 5,000 rupees. So if he files a suit, he can only claim an amount of 500 rupees for the loss. If he makes a claim of 10,000 rupees, then he is stopped. This principle of estoppel is applicable. Then he cannot deny the truth. This is the rule of estoppel. It is a rule of evidence. It is not an evidence. What it says? If a person, you try to understand the principle of estoppel, going through the language and between the language of this section, word by word. What it says? If a person by his act, declaration or omission. Omission means, what is omission? Suppose somebody is selling my property and in my presence, claiming that as if he is the owner and I remain silent, I omitted. Thereby, I had created belief in the mind of a third person that the person who is selling my property, he was the owner. Though in such case, I am stopped to deny the truth. This is omission. Declaration, act intentionally doing something. If a person by his declaration, act or omission, as intentionally must be emphasized. The word intentionally, intention must be there. Intentionally made another person to believe something to be true and to act upon. On that belief, that person has acted upon. Then in a suit or proceeding, between that person, between him and that person, he cannot deny the truth of the same. This is estoppel. What is estoppel? You cannot deny what you have represented. And by such representation, you intentionally made another to believe that representation to be true, and thereby he acted upon means he changed his position. This is the principle of estoppel. So, illustration will make you clear. A intentionally and falsely leads B to believe that certain land belongs to A, and thereby induces B to buy and pay for it. A intentionally created a false belief, intentionally made representation to be that he is the owner of a particular piece of land, and he intends to sell it. We believe that intention is there. We believe that representation, and accordingly paid the money. So in such case, the land afterwards become the property of. Suppose when A represented B that he was the owner, he was not the real owner. Afterwards, A became owner. Suppose his father died. So in such case, he got that land, and A seeks to set aside the sale on the ground that at the time of the sale, he had no title. He must not be allowed to prove his want of title. As we are, while discussing the provisions, that is, of transfer of property, we have discussed the doctrine of feeding the grant by stock. That is there. This illustration, append to this section, is based upon the fact of Pickard versus Sears. The principle of estoppel by conduct was for first time clearly formulated in the case. What is that? That is Pickard versus Sears. So this is the principle of estoppel. So you should know. So that representation, what is representation? Representation may be in visible form or oral representation. Representation of fact arising in any way. There may be anything done which has the effect of creating in the mind of the other a believed existence of the fact. So that doesn't mean only oral representation. It may be in written statements, oral conduct, active or passive, may amount a representation in the particular circumstance of the case. So this is a representation. So you should know what is estoppel. In our next session, we'll discuss what is estoppel and what is promissory estoppel. You go through the provision of section 115, then we will discuss what is estoppel and promissory estoppel. And simultaneously we will also discuss the other provisions, section 116 and 117, that is estoppel when it is applicable to tenancy and also accept of the application. Thank you all. Let us